Welcome to Rabbit's Closet. Hi, Ramona Carol. Good to see you. Hi, Carol Stewart. I got my flavor water and chillaxin till the live starts. Great. Good to see you guys. I see several of you here. Umbrella Rebellion. Good to see you. Let me go up a little bit. Kim Stone. Nice to see you, Kim. Rena Rue. Oh, hi, Rena. So good to see you. Said you might be able to catch one. And Rebecca said she might as well. So good to see all of you. I think it's afternoon there for you guys. It's nighttime here for me in Africa. And the reason I've been around so much is because this is the last week of school for my kids. So I've been at home really working hard on preparing stuff for the summer for them. Like right now tonight, after I get off this live stream, I'm going to be doing these are my cutest little Post-it notes. It says everything is fine, but it's a dumpster fire, but they're Post-it notes. And I use them. I'm going to make a calendar for the kids. I mean, you probably don't care, but that's what I'm up to tonight. Josh Duggar certainly isn't up to that in his prison cell. He has been living ever since the trial occurred, like after he was found guilty. He went to FCI Segoville. I did a whole video about this prison. And he's been held there for quite a while. And just about a week ago, Josh was transferred to FMC Fort Worth. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about that here tonight because there's a lot of thoughts about why this could have happened. I'm just going to talk about what FMC, like it's a federal medical center, like what goes on there, because I have worked in some of these centers, and you know I've done it in juvenile situations and also in adult situations as well. The craziest part of all of it, though, you guys, is that Duggar's going to be in prison with Joe Exotic. And I'm sure it's like really random. I'm sure most of you are like, what the hell? Why do you care about this? But I'm obsessed with what happened with Joe Exotic and Carol Baskin. If you don't know about them, you're getting ready to learn about it tonight. Those of you who don't care, leave the chat because we're going to hear Joe's songs. We're going to hear all about Carol Baskin and her little kitty. It is really sad to think about like what's happening with Josh Duggar. It's sad to think about what's happening with Josh Duggar and Joe Duggar. And yet at the same time, I cannot wrap my head around. Can you imagine Joe Exotic like meeting up, clashing with Josh Duggar in prison? It would be so amazing to me if they like became friends and like released a hit album together, you guys. I am there for it. Josh, to me, like I feel worse for Joe Exotic having to meet Josh, okay? Because Josh's whole background is like, if you're not aware, Joe's gay. Joe is very, very gay, and he's had several husbands. He is upfront about his homosexuality. He will write a song about you in an instant. Kim Stone, I love this. She says they could form a beautiful relationship and start a whole new reality show. I know. Now, if Josh had not been found guilty of looking at child porn, this would just be like the joke of my life, right? But instead, you know, Josh was found guilty of doing some pretty horrible things. And I myself was like, when I went to watch the trial, I was like, let's see what they have to say. I'm not going to find him guilty, like without even knowing what the evidence is. But the evidence, to me, they did a really good job. They did a really good job of showing like where his phone pinged. You know, it was in the location where the child porn was being looked at, right? So there was just so much evidence that pointed towards Josh having done this horrible crime. I think that Josh has severe mental health issues. I have a really hard time believing that Josh can get better at this time in his life. I think everyone can get a little bit better in different ways. But when it comes to actually changing your sexual orientation at this stage in life, when you're not even willing to admit that there's a problem, I think that's going to be really hard for Josh. Okay. So there's a lot. Hi, Ivana. So good to see you. Hello, Rabbit. Hello, chat. So sorry I'm late. That's okay. We just started. Ivana, and I don't expect you to always be here. Ivana's she is amazing because she is a moderator, but she's also my friend who never stops caring about me, even when she disagrees with me or I'm not perfect. Thank you, Ivana. You're my YouTube buddy. Michelle, you don't want to be sent there. Oh my God. Okay, my R was before he was sent away to South Texas. sorry for the rest of his life. Oh my God, that's horrible. And we're going to talk about Fort Worth. So Fort Worth is actually the male version of the medical center in Texas. There's a female version, and I've heard the female version is just insane, disgusting. There are so many inappropriate like interactions between guards and the female prisoners there. It's really not a good place to be. I thought Fort Worth was a little bit better. Joe Exotic actually requested to go back to Fort Worth, FMC Fort Worth, where Duggar is. He was actually being held in a federal medical facility in Colorado because Joe Exotic had cancer and he was getting cancer treatments. Okay. And so he was being held in Colorado and he requested to return to Fort Worth because he said he had a lot of friends there. A lot of friends. Oh, Joe. Okay, let's see. Umbrella Rebellions as we just started. Yes. Okay. We are going to listen to some Joe Exotic music. We're going to talk a little bit about what's actually going on with Duggar. So a lot of people are talking about like, why would Josh be transferred to this facility? And one really big social media person was saying that it's because he's got caught too many times with a cell phone in prison. All right. And I'm here to say that that's highly unlikely. Okay. Maybe, I mean, I can't say for sure, but that's highly unlikely. FMC Fort Worth, which we're going to take a look at. Let's see if we can go through this a little bit. This is a federal medical center in Fort Worth, Texas. You get sent to a center like this when you have a severe ongoing medical issue or a severe ongoing psychiatric issue. And when I've worked in centers like this, I did not work at Fort Worth. When it comes to a psych issue, you either have to be a danger, you have to have presented as a danger to yourself or others. Okay. Now that means either saying that you want to hurt yourself, you're going to kill another person, or actually attempting to do one of those things. So it's a pretty high bar to reach. People don't just get sent there because they're not acting right in their standard prison that they were in. Josh was in FCI Seagoville. Okay. It would be very unusual for him to be sent to Fort Worth for a behavior issue. There has to be a psychiatric condition or a medical condition. Let's take a look at the prison. This is the same kind of setup they have at FCI Seagoville. This is an entirely men's prison. Like I said, there's a female version of it, and I'll show you that later. The female version of it is well known for having all kinds of crimes, just riddled with problems, people dying of medical conditions like crazy there. I was told that Fort Worth is a little bit better. Seagoville is really similar to Seagoville. Oh. Okay, so FMC Fort Worth houses approximately 1,530 male federal inmates. This is pretty low. FCI Seago had a lot more. So FMC stands for Federal Medical Center Fort Worth, and it's an administrative security federal prison located in Fort Worth, Texas, and it only serves male inmates requiring medical and mental health care. And it mostly includes those with long-term chronic health conditions and psychiatric needs, okay? And it switched to a medical center in 1994. Overall, it has a pretty good reputation. Like I said, the female version has a horrible reputation. Even though right now it's housing 1,500, it's typical, you know, it's supposed to house 1,300 inmates. So if you can think about it, they're really getting crammed in that facility. They have a lot of people with mental health needs in the federal prison system. You don't just get sent there because you brought a cell phone, right? You don't just get sent there because you were fighting with someone on your unit. You get sent there for severe psychiatric or medical issues, okay? So why is Joe Exotic there? It's Joe Exotic is there because he was diagnosed with cancer. I think it was about 5 years ago. And he's already been through his cancer treatments, the majority of which he went through in Colorado. And he requested to come back to Fort Worth to be with his friends, okay? All right, let's get through this a little bit. We're going to see some. There's Joe Exotic. He's my favorite guy. If you don't know him, then you need to check out Netflix. They did this really incredible documentary back in 2020 when COVID was going on. I watched it over and over again. It was all about this man, Joe Exotic, who runs a tiger facility. I think it was down in Florida, but he has this rivalry with this woman named Carole Baskin. You guys, if you don't know Carole Baskin, you got to look her up as well. You're going to see her in the upcoming music video that Joe Exotic made about her and tigers. Joe Exotic was obsessed with Carole Baskin. They had like a competing thing going on. It might have been that Joe was in Georgia and Carole was in Florida. Okay. So they had like rival tiger facilities, but they really hated each other. And one thing that happened with Carole is that her husband, one day, very wealthy husband, like shortly after she married him, he disappeared. And she inherited all of his money and started this huge like animal sanctuary for tigers, or she already had it, but she like made it bigger. And everybody has always believed, or at least Joe Exotic believes, that Carole Baskin fed her husband to her tigers. You've got to check out the show. It is so amazing. Let's take a little look. This is one of the videos that Joe did about Carole Baskin. This is Carole.
She was a rich woman, she had rich taste, she felt the blood running through her veins. She liked the life she had, she loved her big cats and the beauty of being untamed. Well, everything was fine, just as sweet as wine, but her husband went and disappeared.
Okay, check that one out. It's called Here Kitty Kitty by Joe Exotic. You can check it out on YouTube. This is Carole Baskin. You know, they have someone play her, but this looks exactly like the real Carole Baskin. I could do a whole series on Carole and Joe Exotic. They are the perfect match. Carole believes that her rescue facility for tigers is just much more natural and true to caring for tigers in the way that they should be cared for. Whereas Joe Exotic like puts his tigers on display. And if you watch the documentary, there's a lot of shady stuff going on in his tiger rescue. But there's also a lot of love behind the scenes with many different men. Intrigue, mystery. Joe Exotic has it all. I'm going to show you one more of Joe's songs. This is my favorite song that Joe ever wrote. Find it on YouTube. Check it out. Joe does have a lot of problems, but I have to admit, I love his music.
And then you gotta see this one, which is all.
Tell all the hunters to lay down their guns. Tell them that the tiger needs a little bit of love. Let them run the jungle, let them roam their land. Then stand back and marvel, what a beautiful cat. 'Cause I saw a tiger, now I understand. Well, I saw a tiger, and the tiger saw me. I can give him.
This call is.
Okay, and that is called, let me go back. That is called I Saw a Tiger. For those of you who are hooked and now you need to go look it up on YouTube, I Saw a Tiger by Joe Exotic. It is one of the best songs I've ever heard. My favorite part of that song is that after he released this video on YouTube and after the documentary came out, a man came forward saying that he's the actual voice that's singing in this song. And Joe Exotic approached him. He's like some guy who owns like a shop, like a music shop in Georgia. Joe Exotic approached him and paid him like a sum of money to sing this song, which Joe Exotic did write. So he sang and recorded this song for him, and he thought it was like the biggest joke ever. And he's like, I was like, I don't know what the hell this guy is up to, but he's paying me good money. So he comes forward and he's like, yeah, that's my voice. He has like this really deep voice. And Joe just, you know, he just made his own music video. about it. Check out the documentary. Just look up Joe Exotic on YouTube and you will go down a rabbit hole, my friends. And Josh Duggar is about to be introduced to this craziness. I kind of hope he is. I think Joe Exotic could heal certain things about Josh Duggar if Josh ever gave it a chance. I do think that Josh has really severe mental health problems, okay? So the fact that he's been sent to FMC, the Federal Medical Center. I don't have concrete evidence of why this is happening and what happened to get him transferred to this facility. But I would guess one of two things. Either Josh had some kind of a mental breakdown. And like I said, it would have to be pretty severe. He would have had to have been a danger to himself or others to get transferred. Okay. So he might have said, like, I'm going to kill myself. I can't do this anymore. And we'll talk a little bit about why that might be, because some things have been changing regarding his court situation. So that could have happened. The other thing that could have happened that came up in my mind is it's possible that Josh has some ongoing medical issues which are no longer manageable at FCI Seagoville. One thing that popped into my head is I've often wondered if some of the Duggar men might be diabetic. We definitely don't hear about that or see it on this show, but they don't have good, they don't make healthy decisions. They don't seem to have like really healthy diets. You know, I'm not that I'm like the healthiest person. I've been wondering if maybe he would have been transferred there for, it would have to be like an ongoing medical issue that requires ongoing watch. Something like he's a newly diagnosed diabetic and he's having trouble managing his blood sugars could be something that would send him to FMC. And if he was housed in the medical unit, that's going to be very different from being housed in the psych unit. When I have been in facilities like this, both juvenile and adult, it's hard. It's hard going, you guys. Let me see if I can remove this. I have seen the worst of the worst because you're housing people with depression right beside people with extreme schizophrenia, autism, people that may like eat and smear their feces next to people who really just need some kind of like antidepressant on board, and you're working on getting towards that. You have people who are violent, like shockingly, like they may have psychotic issues, so they can be violent in the middle of like being totally fine, sitting down and eating a meal and then stabbing someone with a fork. In the facilities that I've worked in, we don't have forks. We don't have any kind of utensil that could be used as a weapon. Many people will dress in certain clothes where those clothes cannot be used to hang themselves. Oftentimes you'll see people inside of cells that are frequently naked. They may be masturbating. The mental health facilities are difficult. They're really difficult to be a part of, like working there, living there. And it's not something that most people, you can certainly manipulate the system to get out of like FCI Seagoville into a mental health facility like FMC, where Josh is now. You can manipulate that system, and I see people do it all the time. But it's very rare that people wanted to do it. Nobody wants to be housed next to someone who's eating their own feces and screaming and crying and yelling all day when they are of sound mind, okay? It really takes someone having some pretty severe issues to even be admitted to one of these units, right? Because there are so many people that need help. They're going to take the worst of the worst, the people that need the most help, the people that really demonstrate that they're a danger to themselves or others. They have to prove that if they're going to a psych facility. When it comes to a medical center, like I said, you're going to have an ongoing medical issue. You don't just get transferred there because you were stabbed. You don't just get transferred there for that. Usually they could treat that. They may take you to the hospital from FCI Seagoville and then take you right back to Seagoville. You're not getting transferred to FMC, to the Federal Medical Center. You're not going to get transferred to this other facility where Joe Exotic is when you just have some kind of an issue that was emergent and it could be treated quickly medically. The psych floor needs to have rooms available for emergencies, like people who do try to commit suicide and we're literally cutting them down, and they will go to the hospital first and then they're going to be sent right to the psych unit at FMC. right? So I just want to put out there that I know there's a lot of people saying, well, it's just because Josh wasn't like following the rules and he had behavioral issues. But I would be shocked if that had anything to do with why he got transferred to FMC. This is a medical and psych facility. Okay, what has been going on with Josh? Josh recently had his paperwork that he submitted to the court completely rejected. Okay, so Josh was looking to have another trial, and he said that he had new evidence, and I believe that he was going to try to place other Duggar brothers and other people that are friends of the Duggars at the scene of the crime. I think that he really wanted to get across that there were other people who could have committed this crime. There are people since then who've been found guilty of committing SA towards children, and they were in the vicinity. And he wanted to try to show that this is new evidence that he can put forward and that perhaps someone else was looking at this corn on his computer. This is one of his number one pushbacks that he's had throughout his trial, that there were other people who had access to that computer. It was a laptop. It was his laptop, but he's going to say like he had a brother who was hanging out there. He had a friend who was hanging out there. Since the trial, some of these people have been found guilty of inappropriate behavior, and he wants to really push it off on them. Okay. My issue with this always has been that the FBI was able to triangulate where his cell phone was. And at the time that the corn was being looked up, he was allegedly, according to the triangulation, he was right there in that car lot office. So, I mean, if someone else was looking at it, he was there with them while they were looking at it. It's just really hard. You can never be 100% sure. I want to put that out there. I have seen some crazy stuff that was very coincidental, and you would really think like, no, it has to be that this person did it, right? And it turns out that that person didn't commit the crime. But I think with Josh, we also have a long history of him being inappropriate. We've seen this over and over again with him. There was just so much evidence in the trial. He had a huge amount, like a mountain of evidence stacked against him, right? We do know that there are other people around the Duggars who do disgusting things. So he wanted to present all of this in court, but here's what happened, you guys. I'm going to pull this up. I used to really like you until you said you watched Dad Challenge podcast, and now I'm concerned about your judgment. I understand. I watch a whole bunch of people, and I don't condemn them just because some people don't like them. So, but I understand how you feel. Let's see. Umbrella Rebellion. I have not yet seen a valid explanation for the passwords. Well said, Umbrella Rebellion. Yeah, I don't know everything about that. I do know that he said that there were other people who had access to the computer and knew the passwords, but I'm not sure specifically who he's targeting. I do remember the close friend who had been working at the facility for a period of time that was interviewed by Without a Crystal Ball. I wonder if that was like his primary target when it comes to having a new court date, a new trial set up for him. So Josh Duggar was really after getting this new trial, you guys. And from everything we've seen from the interactions between Anna and Josh, it seems like he truly believed that it was a possibility he was going to be found, he was going to be able to overturn his sentence, right? I think that he believed he could push it off on someone else. There's been new people who have been indicted for different things. So I want to push it off on them. And unfortunately, and I do think that this is unfortunate, I'm going to talk about it. Josh didn't get his paperwork in on time. That is actually why this entire shenanigans that he was up to failed. And it really kind of bothers me. Okay. I really believe that even though he may have not gotten everything in on time, I do wish that they would have heard his argument. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. So Josh, instead of being able to submit to the court everything that he wanted them to hear about his belief that he could prove someone else committed this crime, okay, instead of being able to submit that, he actually had to submit 9 pages of paperwork explaining why he was late submitting something, making an excuse about how it had to do with something that was wrong in the prison, that they wouldn't let him have access to a copier or he couldn't do ABCD. He wrote this really intense 9-page document about it. And I believe he even wrote in it that Anna helped him. He wrote it himself. He was pushing for the judge to be understanding and allow him to submit all of the other information he wanted to submit via a lawyer, talking about why he deserved a new trial. And flat out, the judge absolutely refused it. He received the information, I think it was like a couple weeks ago, that the judge was like, hell to the no. You did not turn your paperwork in on time. That's the end. This is over. And it is over now. Josh will have to serve the remainder ever be considered an S offender. Okay. I still don't understand what the plan is when he gets home from prison. Where is he going to live? I don't think he can live with his children. I have thought there's just so many things that go through my head about what they're going to do regarding all that. But if you can imagine, I'm a little annoyed that, I'm not like annoyed, because I can understand why, Josh was late. Hopefully any other inmate would be held to the same standard, I hope. If everybody's being held to the same standard, then no, Josh shouldn't have been given like an exception and told that he could still submit his paperwork. But I don't like it, because I think now forever, Josh Duggar is going to say that he could have proven his innocence if people would have just allowed him to put forth this last attempt to prove that he didn't do this. Okay. Umbrella Rebellion said he absolutely had plenty of time and he just kept making excuses as usual. He never takes accountability. Yeah, and I think that's like the story of his life in a lot of ways, sadly. As I said, I sort of wish he was able to submit what he wanted to submit, because I think he's going to go forward and say, like, I could have shown the world if they had just given me a chance, right? Okay, so a lot of people are surmising, and I would kind of be one of those that kind of sort of goes along with this, that it's likely Josh Duggar had some kind of a psychological breakdown, because he realized that really, like, my chance to get out is over. And whatever fit I was throwing, believing that they would give me more time and believing that people would help me, like, it's all done. I have no chance to get out sooner than I wanted to. I have no chance to clear my name when I get out. I will be an S offender. This is something I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life. And I also believe that because now Joe Duggar has been arrested, any help or any support that may have been just like little crumbs that people from the Duggar family were throwing towards Josh, I wonder if a lot of that got taken away and it's moved towards Joe. Or maybe like there's a lot of people that like are like, oh my God, another Duggar boy. Like I believe. So I think that there's, again, I don't have the evidence of this, but I think that there's a high chance that Josh is having some kind of a psychiatric problem, possibly like telling the staff that he was going to unalive himself. And that they were like, or maybe he made an attempt. Although I think an attempt might have been reported. Sometimes people make attempts that are very like kind of, I guess people could consider it a cry for help, you know? So I'm not sure exactly what happened, but this is not a facility that you go to because you weren't following the rules. You go to this facility because you were a danger to yourself or others. I have seen so many people who want to get in. I have been in situations where prisons are begging us to let people come to our mental health unit because there's such a need. There's such a huge need. And we don't have any room. We don't have any space. We're cramming people. There were times, I mean, this is disgusting. We're cramming people into like the kitchen area or the living area because we don't have rooms for them. They're sleeping on the floor. They need help. They need 24/7 surveillance. They can't be around other people. They need psychiatric medication. They need a psychiatrist on staff, and they're sleeping on the floor in common rooms because we don't have enough rooms for them. So you're not going to take someone who just, you know, wasn't following the rules, smuggled in a cell phone. That's not what these facilities are typically used for. Umbrella Rebellion. Please check out Umbrella Rebellion on YouTube and Instagram. And I believe she also has a TikTok, but I mean, she's very, you know, former IBLP, really knows all of this and knows her shit about all of this. Rebranded says psych issue related to not getting his way, if you ask me. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that could be, but I mean, it doesn't mean that he isn't depressed. I think he would definitely have to show some behaviors. Like he couldn't just be like, oh, I'm so mad. You know, everybody in prison is like that all the time. You have to do something. You have to say something that's pretty severe. And especially to stay long term, that'll be one of the things that I'll be looking for. Like, how quickly is he transferred back to FCI Seagoville? Is he transferred back in a month or a couple of weeks? That is someone that is usually coming for an assessment, right? Someone that said something like, I can't take this anymore, I'm going to hurt myself. And they're coming for an assessment. And once they're assessed, they're found to not really be in a mental health crisis. Maybe they're unhappy. Maybe they don't like their roommates. Maybe they want to get the hell out of prison, but it's not really a mental health crisis. They're sent right back to FCI Seagoville, maybe to another facility, but they're not going to stay in FCI. I mean, in the Federal Medical Center. Right? There are not enough rooms to keep people who are not a danger to themselves or others. Now, if he's on the medical side, that's a very different issue. When a person gets transferred to the medical side of the Federal Medical Center, that typically means that they've tried to control their medical issue at the other prison and they were unable to get it under control. Especially see this with diabetics, right? You don't send all diabetics to the Federal Medical Center. You do send someone who has cancer and needs cancer treatments to the Federal Medical Center, right? That's how Joe Exotic got in. And I think he needs like ongoing treatment. So he stays at, maybe they just really like him there too, the Federal Medical Center. I don't know. Joe is someone who I feel like could really grow on you. Okay. Rebrandon says, I fully see him going into crisis mode because reality kicked in and a tantrum ensued. Yeah, definitely a tantrum. I can see that. But yeah, so they're going to assess him. They'll see if he needs ongoing treatment in the psych unit or if he's going to be transferred back to Seagoville. We'll see what happens with that. It is interesting to me. I do think when it comes to the Federal Medical Center, there are a few. Well, when you're actually in the facility, you have less, like, especially if you're in the psych facility, you have a lot less control over what you do every day. Like I said, you don't have access to forks or spoons. You get like these little paper, they're just kind of like a piece of paper that's long and straight. It's not a fork nor a spoon, and you like shovel your food into it. You don't get trays because people hit each other with trays. Your food is brought to the unit. You're like whatever rec time you would have, that's dependent upon what's going on with the person. But a lot of times, like, they have to all be kept separate. So you're going to like a rec time. It might just be, it won't even be outside. It'll be like within the facility, maybe in the central room. You're let out to the central room. When it comes to the medical staff, I've often been like a nurse or a nurse manager on these units. Medical staff are very protected. Every facility is different, but there'll usually be like a central bubble made of plexiglass that supposedly the inmates cannot break into. And I'm talking about a psych patient, right? And I'm also, for me, a lot of juvenile psych patients. They're supposed to not be able to break into this bubble. We're supposed to be safe in it. I don't know how many times patients have broken straight through the door, broken straight through the plexiglass. I am incredibly lucky, and I knock on wood, I have seen people get the shit kicked out of them. Really good people who, I'm thinking about this one woman. She was like a mother to the inmates that I was with in a juvenile facility. Everybody loved her, the staff, the inmates, just an older lady, really good person, worked so hard, worked every day. And a very psychotic inmate broke into the bubble when she was in there one day and took her down to the floor, crashed a computer that was in the bubble onto her face. She obviously, blood everywhere. And it was just, there were people that ran to help her. It was so fast that we couldn't get to her soon enough. Obviously she went to the hospital, was out for, I don't know, a year or so, had to have massive reconstructive surgery done on her face. And she came back to the facility. I'm sure she got some kind of a payout for it. We didn't really talk about that, but she was someone who was like, I want to finish my retirement here. And then she was moved to like a calmer unit, and always given kind of like patients that maybe were a better fit for her situation. But I have seen, like, this is not a situation for like, oh, people who just don't like, I just don't like being in prison, I don't want to be here. Like, this shit is really real in these facilities, you guys. So one thing for Josh is, like, if he's going there and he is cognizant of what's going on, I think he's in for a big shock. Like I said, these are, especially in a male type of facility like this, oftentimes they're patients with extreme schizophrenia, extreme psychosis, masturbating in front of you. I have been with kids and adults, and I'm thinking of a kid specifically, who was obsessed with pulling little strings off of his, I don't know how he did it. He'd have a sweater like this, and he'd pull little strings off of it, and he would use the strings to tie it around his penis and cut off circulation. And then he would press it up against the window and be like, you have to come in and help me. You have to come in. And he was severely disturbed. So it wasn't even like you'd be like, oh my God, he just wants attention. Obviously, no, he was severely disturbed. And he would cut off that circulation until it turned blue. And he would fight us when we tried to take it off. The stuff that you see in there is not for the faint-hearted, not at all. Okay, so let me bring this up and we'll watch a little bit more. Let me make this, I want to add to stage. Okay, so it's really weird to me that Joe Exotic, and now will Joe Exotic cross paths with Josh Duggar? If Joe Exotic is in the medical unit and Joe Duggar is in the psych unit, they're probably not going to cross paths. It would be very unusual. Like I said, when you're coming to that psych unit, if that's where Josh Duggar is, you're going to be keeping yourself on the psych unit. And like I said, if it gets to a point where they've assessed him, he's doing much better, they put him on an antidepressant, that was all he needed, he's not feeling suicidal anymore, if that's what's happening, they're going to ship him back to FCI Seagoville, right? FCI Seagoville can give an antidepressant every day. That's not something that you stay long-term on a psych unit for. Someone who is on a psych unit for years and years is someone who we cannot treat. Like, we're giving them a lot of medication and we're not seeing the effects that we would hope for. We're still seeing people who are dealing with psychosis. They don't stay there forever for that reason. Now, Joe Exotic is on the medical unit. If Josh Duggar is on the medical unit because maybe he has like maybe he's a newly diagnosed diabetic and they can't keep his sugars right, that could be a longer term situation for him, and maybe he would stay there as Joe has. Let's go through and see.
I can give him.
This call is from a federal.
Okay, we are actually going to hear from Joe Duggar. I mean, not Joe Duggar. Sorry, not Joe Duggar. We're going to hear from Joe Exotic. We're not hearing from a Duggar. We're going to hear from Joe Exotic from prison, okay? There's this really great TikTok guy that I like. He's going to tell the name of his channel on here. I think it's called like Federal Prison Information or something on TikTok. And basically he tries to help inmates that are going into federal prison like know what to expect, all right? And he got an interview with Joe Exotic at Fort Worth where he's being held with Josh Duggar. And Joe's going to talk about, basically he asked Joe, is the prison system worse than a zoo? And I just found it really funny. So let's listen to it now.
Prison. You will not be charged for this call.
Okay.
This call is from
Kill. Who gets treated worse, inmates in federal prison or animals in the zoo? I wanted to ask the authority on animals in the zoo and federal prison, Joe Exotic.
So, in your experience with zoos, are inmates in federal prison treated better or worse than animals in the zoo?
Oh, definitely worse. Okay, and that's one thing that I really want to do is I want to testify in front of Congress about all of this, because, you know, licensed by the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, to own a zoo and operate a zoo, we had protocols from the Animal Welfare Act that we had to follow. Okay, you never believed that to have.
Okay, I want you to take a look at this before we go back to take a look at what Joe had to say. This is a picture of Joe. Let me bring this up. Okay, yeah. Joe Maldonado Passage. And if you guys are not aware, Maldonado is the last name he took from his husband who was killed at his tiger zoo. If you watch the documentary, you'll find out all about that. Maldonado is passed away now, but Joe keeps the last name Maldonado. This is a picture of Joe. He's been serving a 21-year sentence and he's scheduled for release in 2036. He was a zoo operator and country musician. convicted of 8 Lacey Act violations, 8 Endangered Species Act violations, and 2 counts of murder for hire after plotting to kill Carol Baskin. Because that's the other part of the documentary. You've got to go down the rabbit hole. Eventually, Joe Exotic got so pissed at Carol Baskin because she was constantly talking about how messed up his like tiger sanctuary was and how it wasn't really a sanctuary, that he tried, allegedly, well, he's been convicted of it now. I'll still say allegedly because I believe in you, Joe. Joe says he didn't do it. But allegedly, or he's been convicted of it, he was plotting to kill Carol Baskin, who was the chief executive officer of an animal rescue organization. And you've got to check out the documentary called Tiger King, Murder, Mayhem, and Madness. Josh Duggar. All right, let's remove this and put this back to this.
Okay, we had to provide 400 square feet inside and 400 square feet outside. And that chimp had to have the right to go in and out as he choose. He had to have 10% of his body weight. And
you guys, there's a lot of people in the chat. They're letting us know that Joe Exotic is not a good person. I imagine when I met him, I wouldn't like him very much either. But from a distance, when I watch him on TV and I watch his music videos, I'm sorry, I'm just like really attracted to his music and how totally apeshit he is. He's definitely a wackadoo.
Natural, wholesome, nutritious food every day. So you take a 150-pound chimp. Hell, that's 15 pounds of food, dude.
Holy
okay, and we're not talking about half-rotten bananas and shit. We're talking about it's got to be prime food.
Jeanette Harper says, is it possible that FMC is just temporary while he's being evaluated? We've talked about that, Jeanette, but you're totally right. Yes, it's likely it's temporary while he's being evaluated, unless something more serious is happening with him, right? I would not be surprised if in 2 weeks to a month, he's sent right back to FCI Segoville.
Okay, the USDA would write you up if it was bruised or slimy or any of that. So no, this is grade A food. Okay, then we had to provide a television or radio, and then the enrichment toys had to be changed every day.
Ivana, I'm pretty sure Joe has dentures. I think that's something that came out like either in the documentary or afterwards, because people were like, well, maybe his husband likes that or something.
Okay, now, a human being, 70 square feet. Okay, and that's just inside. Okay, and technically they only have to let you out of there for an hour a day. And then it's 200 calories for your diet a day. And you know as well as I do, that's all mostly made up of cake and cookies.
Yep.
Yeah, because the food is that trash.
I just think it's hilarious that Joe Exotic is really obsessed when he's like, is the prison like better or worse than the zoo? Joe Exotic's complete focus is on the food, right? Like all it is cakes and cookies, and that's trash.
This is from a certified zookeeper, not just some inmate spouting off something from the internet. We're talking to Joe Exotic, who knows his zoos.
Animals in America have more rights than a human being does, especially in a prison. And then, most of our food is either expired, out of date, or the lowest quality you could possibly buy.
I've got more of my conversation with Joe Exotic later on all channels, Federal Prison Tips.
Okay, so that's Federal Prison Tips on TikTok. And I do like watching some of that. I've learned a lot from that guy. So... yeah, when I saw that Josh had been moved to FMC, I was like, oh my God, I swear Joe Exotic is over there. And when I looked it up, it was like, yeah, Joe Exotic is hanging. They may cross paths, they may not, but I think it could be good for Joe to learn a little bit about the world outside of the Duggar house. I mean, hopefully he's been learning about some of that in FCI Segoville, but we have seen via the emails and letters that he was sending back and forth with Anna, that he really continued to have this idea that like he did nothing wrong. He was so angry at his family for not being there for him. I mean, I don't know. I've done a lot of really good things in my life and my family's not really there for me. So I always found it like kind of annoying and immature that Josh was like, where's my mom and dad? Where's my brother and sister? Like some people, they have other lives that they're living, right? I wanted to share with you guys because many of you have asked me, and I feel a little bit like about it. But I'm going to share with you, these are some of the pictures that were obtained via FOIA request, because we had seen via FOIA requests from Lily Archives. We saw some of the emails between Josh Duggar and Anna. But we know in the emails they were talking about pictures that Anna had sent to. And so someone in the Duggar Reddit did their own FOIA request to get some of the pictures. Here are some of them now. I thought it was kind of interesting because you can see that Anna just sent some pictures of like some of the family, what they're up to. Okay, Umbrella Rebellion, you are 100% accurate. That's exactly what I want to say, is that in the emails, regardless of everything else that's going on, you know, there's a lot going on here. Like, I think it's weird that, it's really weird to me that Josh doesn't ask more about the kids. It's really weird to me that they don't talk more about, I'm so worried about this child or that child or what's going to happen to them. I had to talk to so-and-so about what happened. So-and-so is asking questions about this. There's very little talk about that, because I'm going to tell you, that would be my number one concern. Were I the mother or the father in this situation, even if I thought I didn't do it, you know, I mean, even if I knew I didn't do it, my whole concern would be like, what's happening with my kids? What are we saying to them? How are we caring for them? What are we going to do in the future for them? Any money that we have, are we putting it away for the children? What else can we do? Are my parents helping my kids, my grandkids? Are they, whatever money like I might be saying to Anna, I'm just saying, if I was in Josh Duggar's position, especially if I really was innocent, I think that I would be saying, look, it doesn't matter how Jim Bob and Michelle treat us. I want you to talk to them. I want you to get on the phone. I'm emailing them, but I want you to be redundant about it to them. Like, what can we do to set up some kind of fun for the kids? I'm really worried about this. Where are they going to live? Where are they going to go? Are they going to have, you know, funds for their future? Because that would be my number one concern. I would also be talking about, like, what are we going to tell the kids? Because I didn't commit this crime, and I want to talk to them about A, B, C, D. Like, I would like to be involved in how we can discuss this with them. You know, I think it's weird that we don't see any of that. Now, Umbrella Rebellion does say maybe that happens more on the phone calls. Maybe. Yeah. Ivana says, Josh has always been spoiled and very selfish, for sure. Typical narcissist behavior. He definitely has time and energy to ask Anna for corn pics more than his kids. Okay, so I want to show you some of these pictures. We've got pictures of Anna with the flower. You can see Anna's just taking pictures of herself. I mean, this is common from what I've seen. This is common in pictures sent to inmates. It's like people take selfies, and the inmate is going to request, like, can I get it a little bit sexier? You know, can I get this? Can I get that? Now, we saw that Josh made some insinuations that he wanted certain things. I think he specifically said, like, bathing suit, or you looked really hot and sexy in this. He also sent a lot of weird emojis, which I didn't show to you guys, but it's essentially supposed to be like a penis in emoji form. And I guess because they can't really use, either they're just like so immature, but I think it's because they can't use the words that they use these emojis. It's pretty gross. We can see her. These are just pretty normal pictures of Anna that she's taking of herself to send to Josh. She also sends pictures of like the other siblings on the holiday. One thing that she sent that was kind of interesting to me is she's sending him pictures of the house they're remodeling. I'm not sure if this is a new house that they moved into with the swimming pool and it's like $1 million, but you can see she's showing him pictures of like options for the house so that he can be included in remodeling it. It's incredibly sad for me. It's incredibly sad to see this. You guys, the majority of my comments are always going to be people shitting on me. So many people have said, like, you're a cult apologist. Why are you supporting this? I think it's really, I believe that they have a right to their opinion, and I always leave those comments and just don't say anything. But I don't understand why people don't have compassion or feel bad for people like Anna or Kendra. I don't get it. I don't even get why people don't feel bad for Josh or Joe, even if they committed the crimes. Like, it's very hard for me because I have been in facilities where I'm taking care of the kids who have committed crimes like this. And even when I feel disgusted by what I read in their chart, I also feel compassion towards that patient. So it's just odd for me to constantly hear about how disgusting these women are. You're supporting the cult by having, I mean, literally people say you're supporting the cult by having compassion for them. I think that's really, I don't understand. I'm never going to understand. I'm never going to be on that same page with you. So this is pictures of her, showing Josh what they're building, I guess. So these are pictures where people are like, I guess this is the swimsuit picture. I don't know for sure. The reason that there are black spots there is because they're kids. So Anna seems to be trying to take a selfie, but also take a picture of the kids in the pool. I think this may be the pool that's at the mansion that she's in now. Or no, it was from a while ago, so it couldn't have been at the mansion. But she's definitely taking pictures with the thought of having her kids in the picture. So it's, to me, that's not overtly sexual, but I guess, I don't know. Maybe Josh was sexualizing it. These are the pictures I'll show you guys where people were questioning, if, so sad, if Anna was trying to, give Josh what he wanted, do some kind of like a sexual pose. I just think it's really sad. I just think that this is a person who is trying to keep her husband happy, and it's just pitiful and odd. I just feel bad for her. These are the pictures that were obtained via FOIA. Okay, let's take that down. Just sad for me. I feel bad for Anna. I think she's really fucked over in her life. Okay. Let's go through some of the comments. Ivana says, I don't understand that either, Katie. These wives are innocent. I don't understand the hate they are receiving. Yeah, Ivana, I mean, I see that it's there. I see that people are like really angry at me. People are hardcore if I don't follow like the popular trend. It's interesting because I just have a hard time understanding it, obviously. And I've made so many videos and I've spoken out so many times against the IVLP, against Jim Bob Duggar. I was one of the first people to talk about how the Halts are, blameless in all of this. I don't get it. I don't get not having sympathy, empathy, or just like concern or just understanding. Like, of course, why can't people understand? You may be disgusted. I'm absolutely disgusted. Of course, I'm absolutely disgusted by child porn. Of course, I'm absolutely disgusted by SA. It doesn't mean I don't see that the perpetrator may have also had a horrible life where they were SA'd when they were a child. I can also see that. Those are also truths. I can also care about that. I can also say we need to find a way to prevent this from happening again. And the way to prevent it is not just to punish. Like, we need to take a serious scientific look at what happened, how it happened. How could we help? I've been through it so many times, you guys. How could we help someone like Josh Duggar earlier on? How can we help them now? Because just putting him in a cell isn't helping him, and he's going to get out. Like it or not, he's going to get out. He's going to get back into the community. I don't know what that's going to look like for him, but I think it's scarier now than it was before, because I think he's going to have a shitload of resentment. He's the same person, but with a ton of resentment on his back. I think that's really disgusting. Well said, Umbrella Rebellion. You can hold them accountable without dehumanizing them. That's well said. I think you do a good job of that too on your show. And maybe I'm too far gone on it. I'm not sure, but certainly, I definitely have a personal viewpoint based upon actually working specifically with the children. I don't know. Okay. Ivana, people don't get it because they haven't worked with the offenders like you have. Yeah, that's definitely like a unique, right? Like I have to recognize that I'm in a unique situation. Even though I said he's selfish, I do believe he needs therapy. Yeah. And also like he needed more help from the beginning, right? Like definitely we have found this really, it makes me angry. Every day somebody leaves a comment that's like, don't you know that there's no treatment for sex offenders? And I have to be like, first off, you didn't watch my video. Yes, for a long time we have thought that there's no treatment for like sex offenders who commit crimes against children. We have now found, and studies have shown, that if you're under the age of 18, there is extensive treatment that works for people who offend against underage kids. So under 18, there is treatment. Over 18, there are studies throughout Europe, and I say this in every video, and everybody acts like I'm a total fool and I don't know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. I've worked on it. I've researched it. I've been a part of research that's done internationally. There is research in Europe that shows that we can treat sex offenders as they get older. Am I saying that is that treatment available in the US? No. Do you care about what happens to your grandkids? I really care about what happens to my grandkids. They're not here yet. So I would like a world where we actually bring some of that treatment, which is found to be successful in some European nations, and start working on it in the US. And start looking at what causes people, because there's a lot of brain dysfunction involved with it as well. There can be, according to these studies that have been done. We can start looking at that. We can actually map brains and see that you have the kind of brain damage or like brain difference that leads you towards like deviant sexual behavior. Here's some things that we can do to help you. I care because I hear what happens to my grandkids and my great grandkids and my kids. I don't understand people just being like, lock them all up and, you know, stop talking about this. You're a cult apologist. Like what? I talk about this because I don't want it to keep going. I don't want it to get worse. I'm not saying I'm not holding up a sign that says, let Josh Duggar out. No, that's not what I'm doing. Let's go up a little bit. I'll look at a couple more comments if I can. Right now says, his parents refuse to take accountability that having that many kids contributed to Josh going down this path. Right now, I think you are 100% accurate. Many, many times when I was working in this facility that was specifically only for childhood sex offenders, children that have offended against usually other children, I never had a kid that had offended against an adult. Just a kid. These are kids that have offended against other children. And the entire unit that's what it is, right? We don't have anybody else in that unit. A lot of times when we were looking into their history, because that's a big part of what happens, is the state is really looking at, they're collecting data on like what happened to this child, or did something happen to this child? Specifically, was there an essay that happened, right? Because they want to look at like how frequently, you know, there's some correlation, right? A lot of times it would be like there wasn't necessarily a sexual assault that occurred to the child and then they assaulted someone else. It could be like there were really poor and inappropriate boundaries within the house that essentially were like some kind of form of sexual abuse. So it could be like a very low income home with two parents who maybe have like some special needs or lowered IQ. They all live in like a studio apartment with several kids, and the parents have S relations at night while all the kids are on the floor, and they hear and see it. And I would catalog that as like some form of sexual abuse. But it's not necessarily like an assault on the child, right? And then the child carries out that behavior against another child. And now they're stuck in a facility. I mean, these are kids 6, 7, 8, up to 18. The youngest I had, I think 5 or 6. It was really sad to see. Okay. RLF says, beginning to think Josh was abused along with his other brothers. I do wonder what happened with Grandpa Duggar. Not saying that he directly abused Josh, but he was really inappropriate. A lot of the information that I've gathered about him is like, first off, he wasn't a good father. He was an alcoholic. He was cheating on his wife all the time. And Amy Duggar, for what it's worth, Amy has her own issues, has said that she was just very like suspicious of Grandpa Duggar because there were a lot of things that happened where people would be like, he can never be alone with you. He can never be alone with you. Don't ever be alone with him. And she just had some kind of a feeling that they were acting like he would do something inappropriate with her. Ramona says, I get angry at Anna because she can't see Josh for what he is. But Anna is a victim in all of this because of the way she was raised. Yeah, I think if you also, I'm not saying this about you, Ramona, but like if you were abused as a child and your mother didn't protect you, I could really see how you would be angry at someone like Anna or someone like Kendra. There are people that come into my, I often try to tell myself maybe that's why some people are so angry, is like they have their own issues with their own mother. And then it would be very hard for them to feel empathy towards Anna. And trust me, I can really get that. Tallulah Farm, I love you. Love your face. I haven't caught you live in over a year and a half. Thank you for being here. I hope you're well. Been watching all your videos and replay. Oh, thank you. You always leave like a message, so I really appreciate you. Good to see you. CC. The majority of SA were essayed themselves as children. It's a generational curse until someone breaks the cycle. 100%. And we were cataloging scientific evidence of that for the state in one of the facilities that I was in. It was very sad. Okay, very well said. I'm struggling with this today. The real or the res, I don't know, the res. The world is in black and white, many shades of gray. You guys, I am struggling with this today because I just put out, I totally agree with you. I just put out these 2 really quick lives about Gypsy Rose Blanchard, okay? And I'm talking about how I believe, and I can't diagnose people, but I believe that Gypsy Rose Blanchard has borderline personality disorder, and you see a lot of this in her latest video where she's acting crazy, right? And I show the video where she's being really crazy. But I also talk about how, like, I know I'm different from a lot of creators who cover Gypsy, even though I covered her extensively in the beginning, right? I know I'm different from them because I had some like empathy and sympathy for her. And I was like worried about her. I hope that she could be like a good example of someone who was able to get out of prison like earlier than most, and that she would do a good job. Do you know how many people came in my comments and they were like, you have no idea what you're talking about. Gypsy. I mean, they were so angry that I had like some thoughts about Gypsy that weren't negative. Like it was like a, 80% negative stream about Gypsy, but the 1 minute that I spent saying something positive, you can go look at those videos. People were just like piling on me about it. And I thought to myself, this is what I hate about my channel, what I hate about social media. There's never any room for the gray. It's always black and white. Someone has to be the victim. Someone has to be the villain. You can never look more closely at what's happening. Nobody cares about what happened to Nick Godejohn, the man who was found guilty with Gypsy and that he still, sits in prison with autism. People just don't, it's hard, except for my people who come here and stick with me. Like, I know you guys see it. Like, it's just really hard to talk about a lot of these topics and see that there's no room for intellectual questioning, for people who don't like agree to actually talk about it and get information from each other and maybe change their perspective a little bit, move a little bit more towards the middle. It's either 100% right or 100% wrong. I find that really difficult on social media because I don't really see that as being the way it is in real life. Okay, this person, Triple J. And hey, Triple J. I agree. These women have been brainwashed and put in a position of submission. I agree with that too. Love Always Carol says the wives have been groomed and raised from birth to put their husbands above everyone and everything but God. It's why Kendra will also say it's what her own parents taught her. Yeah, and her parents, Kendra's parents, stayed hardcore. They stayed with the Duggars, like live with them, work for them. They knew all the shit that went down with Josh. They gave their firstborn Kendra to Joe, knowing everything that Josh had done. He had not been arrested for child porn at that time, so they didn't know about that, but they knew all the other shit. Josh had been found like with stripper, whatever, just all kinds of crazy, deviant sexual shit that he was doing with his sisters, but also out in DC when he lived out there. They knew it, and they lived on the Duggar compound for however many years, and they lived in Joe's house for however many years, and now they want Kendra to turn her back on Joe when they couldn't even do it. The parents couldn't do it. The parents didn't do it, but they did start a GoFundMe and raise $40,000. Kendra got left out of all that. Kendra got nothing so far that I can see. Kendra got a huge heartbreak. Do you know people were angry at me because I said, well, you know, not all homeschooling is bad. I know people who aren't religious and do homeschooling, and like they do the best they can. And who am I to say like that no one should homeschool, no one should unschool? These people wrote this whole thing to me about what an idiot I was for ever supporting unschooling. This is why I can't get behind when people are like, say something shitty about dad podcast, say something shitty about CC Suarez. I'm like, you really have to go far for me to have something really shitty to say about you. Katie Joy went that far. She went that far with me. It was bad. Even stuff that's happened behind the scenes that you guys don't know about, it was bad. And that's the only reason why I talk about her. Otherwise, I'm kind of like, people make mistakes. Things happen. Who's this? Kim. Love, I agree. She probably is living her best life, and she low-key deserves the 12-year break. Who's this about? Sorry, I kind of got lost. That might be about Anna. Crow says, some religious groups have a more utilitarian view of kids and aren't connected with their emotional health. Okay. Yeah, that's because I think that's what I was talking about. Like, why isn't Josh asking about his kids? I mean, Anna talks about it a little bit, but I don't know. Every email, every phone call, I'd be talking about my kids. Like, the email is the best time to write down, like, this is what I think we should be. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It would all be about my kids. Yeah, but they don't care about their emotional health. That's really sad. Wait, is she even allowed to get pictures of his kids, being that they are minors? I believe he is allowed to receive pictures of his kids. I do think so, Carol. And this is very true. Okay, so Umbrella Rebellion is talking to someone. It looks like it's Slove or something. She says, I agree. I think one of the reasons she stays is because it's easier. But I don't really fault her for that. Like, as a mom, like, I've just hit my 40s. And I'm doing my best with my kids. It would be really hard for me to start over. It would be really hard for me to go live somewhere by myself, not have any financial or emotional help from my husband. It would be hard for me to accept. God, it would be so hard for me to accept if I found out my husband did something illegal, let alone looking at child porn. I think it would take a long time for me to believe it. People don't put themselves in anyone else's situation. They're like, I would just kick that man out. I don't know if you would. I don't know if that everyone would do that. Lovely always. Carol says, I feel like Anna might be living her best life financially, being supported by the Duggars, but also not having to deal with Josh. Okay, that's a really good point. And I agree with that, because who knows how Josh was in the bedroom. I mean, he's just so slimy. Ugh, he's really slimy. So in the bedroom, who knows what he was like. Going down to the bottom. Umbrella Rebellion says, kids also went to college. IBL kids also went to college, but they struggled to catch up. It just depends on how much of a foundation each parent gives their kid educationally. That's what's interesting about the IBLP too, right? Umbrella Rebellion, because it was so individualized. It's not like everybody was even meeting at a church. A lot of them are just like living alone by themselves, right? Homeschooling, sometimes going to conferences. Some people didn't even go to conferences. So people were isn't it true that people could kind of interpret it the way that they wanted? There would be people who would be more extreme or less extreme. I find that really interesting. Kim Stone, it's smart for Anna not to offer up info about the kids, maybe her way of keeping them safe from other predators and Josh. Yeah, I think after all this stuff came out in a FOIA request, Anna will be even more cautious about what she says. Now, I think a lot of the stuff that was gotten by FOIA was, it didn't come from FCI SEGO bill. I think you can't really get that from FCI SEGO bill. So now you can't get some of that information, which I think is good. I really don't think we need to see what Josh and Anna are saying privately to each other. But I mean, I've talked about it on my show, so I'm kind of conflicted about it. But sometimes when I read or I look at their pictures, I'm just like, I just feel like it's just weird and gross. That Willow girl says, I once liked to comment on her Instagram post. Oh, this is about KJ. Trust me, Willow girl. I've been there when it comes to KJ. I once liked to comment on her Instagram post agreeing with her, and I'm not joking. Within 5 minutes, Katie Joy watched my entire Instagram story. Yeah, because she's a stalker. She stalked the shit out of me and my kids, allegedly. That's what I think. Ivana says, I follow this lady that unschooled her kids and they're highly intelligent and going, oh, of course. But do you know, Ivana, you should have seen the comment I got that was like, what the hell is wrong with this? Who even is this ugly piece of shit talking about unschooling, that they know what's going on? It's just so weird to me. Tell me, guys, do most of you live in a world where you believe that only you know what's best for everyone, every single child, every single human being? Only you know the right way to school people. Only you know the right religion. Only you know how to do, like, cleaning your effing dishes. Because I swear to God, on social media, on my platform, people will come into my comments and it's like, you can do no right. You know, I am an idiot. They know all, and there's no room for anybody else having any other kind of opinion. It is weird to me. Okay, guys. Okay, and Ivana, I was just looking at some of the videos you sent me. I think I'm gonna. I need to go further down that rabbit hole. Ivana has this person that she's been sending to me that is really interesting, but I need to go further down the rabbit hole and maybe do a video about it. Okay, thank you guys so much for being here. This is maybe it for a while. I did 3 videos today. I don't even know why. I think it's because I'm jazzed up on coffee, getting ready to do my post-its for my calendar for my kids. Thinking of all you guys. Hope you have a great either first week of summer or last week of school. Or if you're a grandparent, maybe you'll be seeing the grandparents soon. Much love to all of you. And we'll end with this because it is right on target. Winnie the Pooh says, thank you, Winnie the Pooh. You're so wise. Since my childhood, you've been the wisest person in my life. We can all say what we would do in situations, but unless you've been there, you don't always know what you do. Thank you, Winnie the Pooh. Good night, everyone. Look up Joe Exotic on YouTube and listen to his music tonight. Good to see all of you. Have a great night. Bye.